Hello, hi. Welcome to Behind the Roleplay. We have two special guests this evening. We have the amazing, absolute fucking god tier RPer who plays Porter, which I always remember RIP Porter. Big RIP to Porter. Honestly, it's such a shame that. uh, but we also have probably one of the craziest stories to kind of watch on Echo. A lot of lifers normally get like a bad rep, or people really just do not like lifers in general because like their attitude and stuff like that. So this week we're going to be having Blue. If you do not know who Blue is, hopefully this chance you'll get to kind of understand this character. A little brief story about Blue is that Blue was committed a lot of crime, got into prison for life, and let's just say that a lot of things did happen in the process, but then she got out. But then a lot of things did happen. But and same with Porter was she's a part of DOC, so a lot of the stuff that we're going to be kind of talking about is the duo with kind of Life RP and also DOC, and just kind of dissect that. Let me turn this down a little bit. Basically just dissect that RP, kind of like things that usually kind of go on. There's a lot of giving and taking. It's kind of like a little bit of everything, right? So today's going to be kind of like a DOC and lifer kind of story. Going to be discussing that. So kick back. If you haven't already, make sure get your water, get your snacks. Make sure to just chill, and thank you so much for coming by, and we're gonna go ahead and bring him in now. Hello.
Hi.
Hello. Thank y'all so much for coming on. Appreciate y'all a lot. Also, I hope the scaling of y'all is the same way that.
Perfect. It's absolutely perfect.
That's amazing.
Nope. That seems accurate.
Seems legit. Okay. All right. Hell yeah. But thank you again so much for coming on Behind the Roleplay. Like I was saying before, we've talked a lot on the show about mostly just like the general basis of like comp and crim, kind of like that back and forth. But we haven't had a chance to really talk about DOC and lifers. I know that obviously with you playing Porter, you've seen a lot, right? You've kind of like seen a lot of serial killers, a lot of just people just come through the prison, and also Blue, like you've kind of witnessed that, just staying in Bolingbrook and just kind of just giving RP, and also just kind of like seeing people kind of go through the prison, Bolingbrook and all that fun stuff. So I kind of want to start with Porter, if you're okay with that. So with kind of how DOC is kind of like constructed, what are some of the things that that you've kind of noticed is like kind of like a repeat thing, if you will, like through the role play that you've kind of played, like control people, but at the same time, like, is there any moments where, if you were to kind of like, I guess, put in perspective, like if someone were to, let's say, first time being like a DOC member, right, what would be some like things that you want to like recommend people to kind of do?
Take it easy. Don't worry too much about it. Like get to talk to people and so on, because a lot of the, in my opinion, better RP isn't the action that there is in DOC. It's more the storylines that we do have with the lifers, and also the people who get in prison very often. That people like Blue, we were able to get a very long storyline with, and that's still going. And generally just a lot of very interesting RP that you don't otherwise see other places, I'd say.
Absolutely. I think there was a lot of times where like when I had my lifer character, there were times where it felt it felt like it, like, obviously, you have the Los Santos, which is the place where you're mostly RP at, but like the Bolingbrook, it felt like its own little world. Would you agree with that, Blue? Like, kind of how, like, did it feel like that with you also? How the Bolingbrook, like, since you were just always there, did it feel like it was a whole different world compared to being out?
Yes, definitely. So the thing about Bolingbrook is that it's very RP focused,
Hmm.
and mostly slow burn RP, and that's something you can find it in the outside city, but lots of RP in the outside city is fast paced, and in Bolingbrook, a lot is very slow burn. I personally love that. And because DOC doesn't have that many people, well, except for PD recruits, but like full-time DOC is not that many. Lifers, we have a lot of lifers at this point, but not a lot are really active. So because there aren't that many people, you get close to each other and you really get to know each other, and it does feel like their own little world. And I think that's interesting. I like it.
So with how you've kind of played Blue, and with how, like, we discussed this earlier before we recorded, but I was telling her before is that when I first made Cree, and when I was part of Weasel News with them, and we were getting a story for like recruits kind of like being putting into Bolingbrook for like Vice City or whatever the case may be, and Blue was outside trying to set fire to the cop cars. When having that type of character, did you have the full like mindset, like, okay, I'm gonna just go in and just cause as much like hectic without obviously like breaking the rules, but like, what was kind of your mindset to be like, okay, like, I want this character to be in prison for, like, I guess, for life?
My mindset actually started on another server. Well, I got Blue there. Blue was just Chaos there. They didn't have DOC there. But I already played with the idea of making her a lifer, but because they didn't have DOC there, that would have been very boring.
Right.
Then I moved to this server, and I noticed that there was DOC. And I was so hyped. I was like, yes, I can finally fulfill my Blue dreams, you know?
For sure.
So yes, my intention from the beginning was causing as much chaos on Blue as possible. Because Blue was just a problem child, you know? She really is. And I already meant her to go through development from being chaos and not knowing what to do, and actually just a problem child, basically, to becoming actually well behaved. So yeah, I put her into prison with that mindset to get her through some slow burn development.
So with kind of what you said there with the development, right? There are times I've noticed, even through myself, is that with any type of character that I've had, like, with Blue, like you said, she was very just chaotic and just full on went through it, right? Are there moments with now, do you ever have to remind yourself to limit yourself because where you've had that kind of development, or do you just kind of go, well, it's not as strict, but still is kind of, you still want to have that characteristic of growth?
It kind of grew naturally on me. Like, I'm so used to playing Blue that it just feels naturally to develop with her, if you know what I mean.
Yeah.
But yeah, sometimes I have to keep myself in, but most times it's the other way around, actually. Because very often I know that some decisions are not the right decisions and that it can get Blue in trouble. But I also know that Blue would definitely make these decisions, even though I, OOC, wouldn't do it. So I have to force myself to make them anyway, you know?
Well, I kind of want to push that, so the story kind of has that refreshness, I guess, right? Like, to where it's like, you could easily just, once you get out of prison with Blue, and like once everything, you can go right back to just kind of doing your own thing. But like, with you, I feel like it's crazy to see because without meditating too much, but a character of mine that our characters somehow bump into each other, most of the time, uh, snuck in snuck into PD, and then also Blue snuck in, and
Yeah.
she got in big trouble. Like, was that kind of what you mean? Is that like, you could definitely just it's easier to just like take a step back and whatever, but to push that limit to where it's like have Blue fall back into where
Yes.
she went into.
Yeah, that's a good example actually, because that was an example where IOC knew that was gonna get Blue in trouble. And if I didn't want that, I could have held it back very easily.
Yeah.
But at that moment, I felt like it would have been something that Blue definitely would have done, because Blue is very easy to influence. And I still think that, like, I don't regret doing it, because I just feel like it's definitely what Blue would have done.
And see, and stuff like that is like, it's so crazy to kind of see that, because obviously when you're playing character and you have a certain mindset, like for my character Jimmy, like he's a very civ heavy based character, so it's like I'll try my best, like not to, I'll still speed or whatever through through speed lights or whatever, but like I definitely try my hardest to not push that limit, because like I don't want that. But like when having that character, it's like you want to have like flaws, like not everyone's gonna be perfect, not everyone's gonna be able to do all these things, and it's like it's a bit refreshing to kind of see that you take that that control, I guess, through that character. It's really cool to see. So Porter, kind of going with you back to you, uh with Porter and how it's very, Porter was, which we'll get to that at some point, but Porter was in charge of pretty much everything, right? Like she was very like she was what's the name of it?
Warden?
The warden. There we go. Sorry, Jesus. So the warden was very obviously like in charge of everything, stuff like that, seeing everything. There are times where there are kind of like jailbreaks kind of constantly happening. And I cannot remember if they like made that to a rule we can't break anymore, but like if you can kind of like describe like if you were to like if there were a jailbreak, right, would there be a way that you would like prefer it to be like handled, I guess, if that makes sense?
Handle through DOC or handle through the crim side?
Yeah, well, both sides, I guess, right? Because technically
Yeah.
you do have like a kind of a crim or a killer. Would you count a killer as a crim? I think that's like a
I have
separate.
too many characters. I don't know anymore. I've done a bit of everything. Well, from the crim side, honestly, as long as you're not just power gaming your way through to get in and get out, if you're actually there to create RP and just to see what happens and you try to be creative with it, then we'll be happy, honestly. And from DOC side, then we'll always have someone taking control. And I mean, it's just like a police scenario. It gets handled differently from each scenario, because it's very different from time to time if it's a lifer breaking out or if it's someone breaking someone else out or what's going on.
For sure. I think that's one thing, is that everyone kind of forgets that it's like the scenarios that get brought up, I feel like for me personally, like when a scenario is so big and it's like something really crazy, the cutting point of the scenario ending, I feel like should match the energy. That makes sense. Like I feel like if a scenario is really big, then the thing that should shut it down should be almost, if not bigger than what it is. Because I feel like it would make more sense if it's, if it's at equal, not, well, I would say equal, but one has to be bigger than the other for one not to overcharge,
Yeah.
Yeah. So with how like how can I just dissect this? So y'all have basically became really good friends like through role playing, and you've had a chance to meet up OOC. How has that been, kind of like starting that friendship? Or is Porter and Blue like friends in character? I can't remember if
I'm barely on Porter right now, so they barely talk. But yes, they are friends in character. Yes.
so when having that kind of, that you actually starting to be friends OOC and actually met, was it kind of like kind of real to see that, you know, being so like meeting online to like role play to actually meeting like OOC? Like, how was that experience?
It was terrifying, honestly, because I was
Yes.
picking up this person from the train station that I had never before in my life met, and when she stepped off the train, I realized that I just picked up a complete stranger off of the train,
Oh, Jesus.
and I did not know her at all. Like we had been talking for 4 months and so on, but at the end of the day, it was a stranger, and it felt so weird. But then it took a couple days, and then there was absolutely no issues.
Yeah, exactly. I I had the same feeling. Like I spent 13 hours in a train to visit a total stranger, and I stepped out of the train, and I was like, "Wow, what am I doing here?" And my mama told me to never meet up with strangers. But
Yeah,
it took like an hour, and then we were kind of
it
talking.
didn't take more than like a couple hours. Yeah, I remember the car ride back being a little awkward, but otherwise it pretty quickly became quite natural.
Yeah, it really
Because at
was.
the end of the day, we did know each other a little bit, like of course, because we'd been talking online for a while.
So that's something I think is very unique, to be honest, right? Because it's just like you've, you know, you've talked to each other very quite a bit, like online and stuff, and then you finally met in, you know, OOC,
Mm.
and obviously like that was definitely a I couldn't imagine meeting people who I role play with and meeting them in like IRL. They're like never really crossed my mind because I feel like it's just so it's so like routine just to talk to them online, you know, and it's just like something that you just never would have thought to actually be able to happen.
Yeah,
So
it can feel like two different worlds.
it's
Does,
actually a funny story because same, I can't imagine that either, and I would probably never do it. Um, but somehow it felt good with Porter.
so what's the funny story?
Well, then I would never do it,
Oh, you
and
never do it?
yeah, except for with Porter, and it was like I think we didn't even talk for 4 months, and also
Yeah, it was
we don't
very
live in
quickly.
same country. I have never been abroad before that. Uh, I was never in an airplane and all that kind of stuff. And then I just decided to, travel to Denmark on my own. Um, and I am a really anxious person actually, so I think it's kind of funny that I managed to do that for a complete stranger.
Yeah. I mean, to be honest with you, it does sound very terrifying. The way that you word it is just like you may know this person like on the internet, but like it's a complete stranger, like meeting them like in the flesh, you know?
Yeah, it was terrifying.
Yeah, I don't think I realized that until we stood at the train station. Because until then, like we were talking and in calls during the train ride you had and so on, but
Yeah.
the moment you stepped off the train, I was like, oh god, I don't know this person.
Oh,
Yeah,
Jesus.
Yeah.
yeah. It didn't take long to, I feel like, for it to
Yeah,
feel
after
relatively
after the
natural
2
to,
weeks,
yeah.
yeah, we were
Oh,
like
after,
really good friends.
yes. I
And
mean,
So,
yeah,
we
the
did
way
end
this
up having to share a
differs.
room in Italy for a week, so I'd hope so.
Yes.
so with kind of going back to the role play, right? I kind of want to see, Blue, how you felt with how, and I think more than likely Porter could definitely agree with this, is that like the impact that Blue has had like on the server as a whole. And there are obviously, if people who are listening or watching, there was a point where Blue was a lifer in Bolingbrook, and Blue was serving her time, all that fun stuff. And there was a point where she was going through bail, or she was going to try something. She was going to try and get out, but the DOJ just didn't really give her right like a time of day or anything like that, right?
Yep, that's true.
So with how many people, obviously we're going back to with how Bolingbrook being own little world, right, being its own little area, to where literally the whole city knows Blue. And obviously the way that a lot of people known Blue was when she got the first time, with good behavior, and then when she got put back, were you expecting the server to people to be wanting Blue back out of prison?
No, actually, I never expected people to recognize Blue in general, and I'm still very overwhelmed and flabbergasted each time that someone recognizes Blue. I'm like, wow, I left an impression. So no, I didn't expect that. And also the protest, well, that was organized for Blue. I saw how many people show up there, and I was like, wow. I didn't even know I knew that many people.
But I mean, so do people actually fully go up to Blue and be like, hey, aren't you Blue? They recognize you and stuff like that?
Yes,
Really?
it happens so often. Like, I actually think it happens at least twice a day that someone walks up to Blue and is like, hey, aren't you that lifer? Or aren't you that person that was on Weasel News?
Oh, so okay, so that's actually really cool though, because I'm always curious to see if people actually obviously you watch news, but if people actually take what Weasel shows and bring it into in character, talk about it or something like that. But the fact that they actually we're asking if you're on Weasel News and all that, it's actually it's pretty sick, pretty crazy.
They actually do. Of course, it's 5M, so you get taken hostage often.
Yes, yes.
And whenever you're in the trunk and they are talking to each other and they're like, hey, I think that this is that a woman from Weasel News. And I'm like, yes, please release me.
Oh my god. So going back with Porter, when having lifers that are, I guess, very vocal, right, as Blue, because let's be honest, Blue was very vocal whenever she'd run around, just
Oh, yeah.
keep spamming her hands going up and down as quick as she possibly could,
Yep.
Are there
Yes.
times are there times where you're just it's a bit overwhelming on a DOC side, where it's just where people obviously Blue, Blue's Blue, that's such characteristics, but people who are that exciting, and that just trying to get attention, is it overwhelming on a DOC side?
I mean, it definitely can be, but to be honest, then we have a lot of instances of people, of course, getting into prison and being very, very upset and not wanting to interact with people.
Right.
So I think a lot of DOC also, because that's the kind of RP we're there for. We're there for the life for RP and for people interacting with us and not just functioning as a game mechanic. So I think for most of DOC, we're very, very happy when lifers do interact with us and create bonds and create storylines, and we actually get to do that RP that we're there for. So I don't think we'd ever be upset or, I mean, possibly overwhelmed if a lot is going on at the same time, but I don't think people are ever going to be upset about lifers interacting with us. No, not at all.
And see, I think that's something that a lot of people are always kind of curious about, and seeing if lifers and DOC are, because a lot of times I know that some people may think it's weird that lifers and DOC are kind of they're friendly to each other, right? But
Yeah.
at the end of the day, you also have to think, right, that you see these people every time you log in, you're not going anywhere. And I'm totally down for
Yes.
conflict. I love conflict RP, it may make my
Oh, we
anxiety
have a
go
lot of
up,
it.
and my skin may be boiling, you know what I'm saying, and it's all red and I'm all sweating, but it's really good to have conflict RP, especially in Bolingbrook's. I feel like it's such a, how can you word it, obviously comparing it in the city, you can get in your car, drive off, whatever, right? Bolingbrook, you're right there, you see the person there all the time. So with what are kind of y'all's thoughts, because I want to hear from Blue, your side, about lifers and DOC kind of having that friendly relationship, right? Then also I want to hear Porter, your side of having a DOC with a friendship like that with lifers.
For me, it was well. So the thing is, in a real prison, most inmates aren't very violent towards the DOC either,
Mhm.
because you are there. at the end of the day, and they are taking care of you. And of course, sometimes you have conflict. Like Blue had a lot of conflicts with DOC. She was angry often. She was scared. She felt threatened. There were a lot of fights, but at the same time, she is there she wasn't there for the rest of her life, but in her head, she was there for the rest of her life. And you can keep fighting DOC, but it doesn't make your life better. And then you also have like the OOC part that's just not fun to constantly fight the OC. But I see it also makes a lot of sense in my eyes, because it just doesn't make sense to always be angry at the OC and causing issues.
Sure. I mean, for me personally, like I think it really draws down the line of like if it makes sense for your character to be mad at like DOC or government, stuff like that. Hey, but like I also feel like, if your character has no reason besides being OOC upset, which is, obviously you can't really do that, but like just stuff like that, I think is something that a lot of people kind of overlook. They're just kind of like, okay, like my character is in prison. My character's angry.
DOC.
Yeah. It's like we're in prison. Deep breath. We hate DOC. Like Porter, RIP Porter. But
don't you dare bring that back.
Well, so,
I spent half a year getting rid of that shit. No.
Porter K.
Porter
no.
K.
Oh my God.
So I do want to ask that though too. A little side thing is that with how people brought that RIP Porter, like obviously that came from my character holding up a head, and people thought it was Porter because of the red hair.
I was in game when you posted that picture, and I think I received like 20 calls within the span of 10 minutes of people calling me and be like, "Oh God, you're not dead. Okay, and then just hanging up." It was fucking ridiculous, and it was immediately the people thought it was Porter and started on Twitter, and I don't know, it went out of hand so quickly, and people, especially Porter's brothers too, to this day still reply to all of her tweets with throw her phone away already and so on to Mr. Ink. It is it's so stupid because it's still to this day a thing.
Still, yeah, it still is.
It's like a year ago now.
And I love it every bit of
ridiculous.
it too. It's so good. So good. Just RIP Porter. Just randomly. Not even like any conversation, just RIP Porter, honestly.
Blue's even worse with that. She just walks up to randomly with no reason. Just walks up to her, texts it or
just RIP Porter. Jesus. So going back with what we were saying originally with how I forgot the question that I asked. Oh my God, my brain. I'm fried.
Conflict with DOC and inmates.
Yeah, conflict. Yeah. So so how friendly lifers are to DOC, and like how like to some people it seems weird, right? But like with how do you feel about it, kind of with that relationship with DOC in life?
So to be honest, then it's changed a lot the last 6 months or so. It used to be a lot more conflict and never that understanding or respect or anything at all. It used to be conflict all the time. And it used to be riots every 20 minutes and so on. It's gotten a lot better recently, luckily, because that was very overwhelming. We of course still have a lot of conflict and breakouts and them beating down sometimes recruits or officers that they don't think are treating them right. We've gotten to a place that I think is amazing because it's very much like in an actual prison setting. People are steps a bit more lightly because they know that there is something will happen if they do either interact rudely with the guards or they start throwing fists and so on. Then they'll get in solitary or get raised security level, and they don't want that, of course. So people actually think about their actions a bit more now instead of just being a menace. And that creates this kind of mutual respect between guards and the inmates. It's kind of a weird fine line because at the same time, even if a guard is friends with the inmate, then if the inmate is trying to break out, they would still take the guard hostage because at the end of the day, it's a guard. The same thing the other way around. If there's a brawl, then the DOC would still use a taser or a baton on the individual, even though they are friendly, normally, because they need to be fulfilling their duties.
So either way,
So it's a very fine line.
it's still kind of back and forth either way, right?
Oh yeah, but it's very much mutual respect. If the correctional officers, we have some that are amazing at showing respect and de-escalating and so on. We have some that sadly are terrible. But it's kind of, for most of the lifers, if you show them respect, you'll get respect back.
Yeah.
At
you
least
gotta
enough
give
that
and
they
take.
don't. Yeah, at least enough that they won't just try to beat you up immediately.
Because I'll be honest, there's sometimes I'll be watching streams and like it'll be fine, chill as day, nothing's going on, and then out of the blue, like just an inmate just knocks out like 2 Dias. I'm like, bruh, what the
Yeah.
fuck? Like, where
Yeah.
is this coming from? Like, I'm trying to understand where the fuck this is coming from. Like, it's
It
fucking
is
wild.
an issue. Like, don't get me wrong, I appreciate everyone that tries to interact at prison, and some of the people that beat up DOC for no reason are actually pretty cool people, but I don't like the beating up for no reason, because it just... There is no RP before that at all. It's just, they are not interacting at all, they are just standing in a corner, and suddenly it's like, okay, I hate you, I'm gonna kill you. And I'm like, wow.
No,
why?
no, there's times where even when I had ink in prison, and I would just kind of have him in the corner just kind of doing his own thing, and this big group of people would just come out of nowhere and just start being aggressive, and my character wouldn't move out the spot or whatever. They start beating him up or whatever, and it's just like, like get it at the same time, but then it's like, like I feel like that's just there's not really that much RP. It's just like immediately just start punching. Fair enough, it's a little bit better than just, granted they can't pull guns out in prison, but better than just pulling guns out and shoot. But still, it's just, I don't know. It's like we're all here trying to wait, but at the same time, it helps time go faster though. Like if it's aggressive and like some shit, like, okay, well, time, we just cut out like 30 minutes. All right, cool, let's do it.
In some way, yes. In other ways, it's surprising how often people decide it's a good idea to beat DOC up in their last 5 minutes of their sentence, because they expect to dip after that and not have consequences, and then they mauled about, not being allowed to leave. And I'm like, wow, you had 5 minutes to go without fighting someone.
Like you said, they think that they can just leave without having anything to worry about, but it's just like at the end of the day, it's still having like that consequence of, you beat up these people, but like, oh, you can just go, no big deal, I'll forget about it.
Yeah.
So Porter, you've had a character, I don't think you've had him caught yet, but I did help your character at one point, your serial killer character.
Vera.
What was her name?
Vera.
So
Vera.
So there was a part that, I wanted to help your character the best that I could, and I offered one of my characters to get murdered. It was probably one of the funniest murders I think I probably have ever been a part of, and I've always been the one to like cause a murder, but I've never witnessed like any of my characters really getting murdered like we did with it. And just to kind of give like a little background with it, basically she took my character because he went to the gun store and was like super weird, started licking the guns, and with that description, it just sounds like Jimmy, but it wasn't. It was a whole different character. And he was trying to lick the gun, and they got in contact with her character, and they were just like, hey, could you like take him away and kill him? And I think they didn't really expect you to actually do it, which was like perfect.
Oh, no, they didn't ask her to kill him.
Oh, they didn't?
They were trying to get him to the police station.
Oh,
and
that's
Vera
right.
stopped. I was like, oh, hey, I'll take care of him. Don't worry. And then drove off with him.
Yeah, and then she cut his head off, which By the way,
I don't think she was gonna if he wasn't being weird. He was being weird about shit, and she was like, "Nope, I'm not having this anymore. You die now."
You die.
yeah, she's the judge now. It's a judge murder. You gotta fucking, But I don't know. I think that was probably one of the craziest experience I think I've ever had with just killer RP because like I mean you can even testify with this. Whenever like someone does kill somebody, whatever, majority of the time they get caught in that same day, right? But you got scot free with that kill, like.
I've gotten 2 kills like that now, yes.
Yeah, and it's just like it's so crazy to see, like, like how does that make you feel? Like, does it feel like that you kind of have to be more blunt, like with like giving out more hints, or do you like the idea of like, your character getting like scot free, like no trace, no nothing?
I mean, I haven't been on that character for a very long time because at the time I was trying to make her lifer. And doing that murder was going to be kind of what led to her because I left so many clues and DNA on scene and placed scenes down to like actually throw it on. It was before we had scenes. I used notepads, I think.
Notepads, yeah.
But I placed so much evidence there in a car that was from the guy she murdered before because she still had his car, of course. Like there was so much evidence that they could have brought 2 murders on her. She was never brought up. Like I don't think she even has a warrant anymore. And she's killed like 4 people at this point.
Jesus.
Yeah. I was kind of expecting that to be like the final straw and then she'll get caught eventually, like after a couple of days on the run. And yeah, but nothing ever happened. I'm a little sad that it didn't, that like CID didn't go further with it.
Well, I think
yeah.
Was it that point where CID was kind of like deflating it a little bit, like where they just kind of didn't really do as much?
I think so, yeah. But also there was a couple officers on scene.
Oh, yeah, it was
also the fact that we threw the head of the person onto a Weasel News reporter.
Yeah.
And there was nothing. Like I feel like I threw so much RP and so many possibilities and so much evidence into it. And I was honestly a little disappointed and a little sad that I felt like not much came out of it. Because I literally threw a decapitated head at a Weasel News reporter. I was expecting to get a news article or something from the police or them looking into the DNA or anything.
Also,
looking into the car because they were driving. I think they were driving Vera's sister's car when they threw it out the window.
Yeah.
Which her sister wasn't supposed to be a part of that, but I love that she ended up being a part of it.
She ended up being a part of it, and it was like her reaction of just like
it was so good.
Well, like, what the fuck? What are you doing?
She did not know OOC at all. So that was a real reaction. It was amazing.
It was probably one of the, like I said, one of the best ones. But I think that with the experience that I've had with like serial killer and like going like full on like slow burn like story wise, you have to really lay out the evidence because I think I really started noticing that like the cops that are constantly like doing like store robberies, stuff like that. Granted, a lot of stuff is slowed down a little bit, but they're still very active. I think that you have to really put in account that like there's a lot of shit going on. Like they're like now there's like 400 some people, and it's just like, there's a story that's really cool. I really want this to be seen, but at the same time, it's like 9 times out of 10 it may be seen just because of like it's the number of people it's just
at the same time.
Yeah, they get a lot of fast calls, and I think that there's nothing you can really do besides like to help with that. But I think that like you definitely have to kind of like take like a month or so and just set up like every single evidence that you could possibly set up, and then put that in motion, and then hope to God that like someone picks it up, But to be honest, though, at one point there were like 8 serial killers running around. Like that was.
Yeah, that's also kind of why I stepped back because I was like, okay, there's enough heat on this right now. That's not what we need right now. I'm just gonna give them a break.
It was so much going on at once. It's probably one of the. It was probably one of the craziest things compared when there used to be like clowns. I don't know if you were around at that time when it was like waves of like clowns, and then at one point it's like a wave of like robots, and it was just like a wave of just things that keep happening, like people just like
Mr.
hopping on that.
Smiles?
Yes, but it was like after
I
that,
love that character so much, and I'm just so sad that he's gone. Because that
well,
was my first ever interaction with you, I think.
what was
I
where?
think that was Mr. Smiles.
Was it
And then
at the prison?
No. We met quite a few times before the prison on my old main Lucy. And I had Lucy's fiance out of character tell me that that was you, and I was like, what?
Yeah, yeah,
Because I did not expect that at all.
yeah. Those were the golden days. I
Oh,
feel
yeah.
like compared, man. To be honest with you, I feel like Blue would not know how to react to how things used to be ran at the prison. Like, I will say that the prison has, like, compared to how it used to be to now, has been fucking crazy. Like, I don't know, like the way that it's ran. Like, it used to be you'd be locked in your prison cell, you wouldn't be able to go outside at all. Like, it was crazy.
Oh,
Yeah.
I heard about it, that as well. Also, when I actually got Blue in prison, they just got their first batch of lives like 2 days in. So I think it was around that time that they actually started their lifer community, and that they actually started working on long-term prison RP. But yeah, I can imagine how bad it was before that.
It was, I mean, it wasn't as bad, but it was definitely like, it was something that I feel like a lifer RP. I don't know if Porty may feel the same thing, but like lifer RP wasn't like, it wasn't a thing, you know.
I think we had 2 lifers at the time. Like
What?
at the time
What was
Smiles was in.
You think so?
There was
Really?
Smiles and there was 2 siblings. Yes, because I remember them. There were 2 Asnests siblings.
I feel like lifer RP is a very rare thing in 5M in general. I don't think there are a lot of servers that actually have like a very active lifer community. So I think it's cool that Echo has one by now. It took a while, but they got one.
It took 2 years, yes.
Oh my god, it took
You
2
did it.
years. Jesus Christ.
I Porter quit like a week before her 2-year anniversary in DOC.
Damn. That's crazy.
Yep.
Well, I
Oh,
mean,
yeah.
we have had like an active live community for the last, well, when did Atticus get out? I have no clue. For the last 3 months or something like that. I know that at some point, like, we had all the livers that were played by staff, and these were active, and then they all just kind of dipped. And at some point, it was just me and Atticus.
It was for a very long time.
Yeah, it was like me and Atticus waking up every day to entertain DOC for hours. I think it was like that for like 3 months.
Jesus Christ.
It's a lot better now.
So when doing that, do you feel like it was kind of just like I was saying before, like it's just kind of like helping passing time? Like would it just be kind of like you messing with them, or would you just kind of like talk to them? Like how was that kind of process with that?
It was a lot of talking, a lot of getting to know each other. I see, and yeah, of course, you mess with each other, because if you hang out with each other that long, you start messing with each other at times. But it was in a fun way. So you pass time in your own way, and it also depends on the people, because with some people you mess more than with other people, you know.
So I do have a question for you though, Blue. Is that, you know, Porter has had a DOC character for 2 years, and she has a kind of a killer that she put on a shelf. Would you ever do the polar opposites and have like either DOC cop or like EMS character?
Funny question.
Actually, so it's kind of funny. Before I got Blue into prison, I got a DOC character that I actually wanted to play on. But I got Blue in prison faster than I expected to be.
I mean, to be fair, you blew up cop cars in front of Bolingbroke while there was a transport, while there was a heli, while like
Blue loves taking risks.
My favorite was the Pantos, definitely at all times.
Yeah, that just
Wait, were you the one that
great.
blowing up Pantos in front of the apartments?
Stacked up so many.
Yes.
Bro, I was trying to figure out who did that. What the? Oh my goodness.
We're not talking about it. No, but like that was just the kind of chaos Blue got involved into, and it just got better. Like that's the thing with Blue. If you look at her now, she's nothing like that. But that took very slow burn RP to get her to that point, because now she learned what is bad and what is good. But okay, to come back to the DOC question. So I had a DOC character, but I couldn't combine it with each other, like Lifer and DOC. Also because, as I said before, I'm a very anxious person, and playing DOC stressed me out a lot, because then there wasn't that much DOC around. You often was alone at the prison. And I don't know, just having to tell people what to do, it stressed me out so much that I stepped down really quickly. But I'm actually working on Blue's expungements and getting her into the OC.
What the fuck? What the fuck?
But that's gonna take a couple more months.
Yeah, I feel like that is gonna definitely. So okay, so you're gonna try and get Blue like back, like kind of go be on the opposite side of like.
Yes.
Okay. What was what was the motivation for that? Like, what kind of got you into doing that?
So, let's start with saying that this is also gonna be very slow burn, because it just doesn't make sense to suddenly have her behave perfectly, you know?
Right.
And she will never behave perfectly. But the thing is, Blue wants to go back to prison as the OC because she wants to help people. Blue is very much focused on helping people. And now that she's out, she sees that DOC helps her get better, and she just wants to help people get better as well, you know?
Mm.
That's her dream and motivation at this point. So it's kind of getting back to where she started, but on the other side. So that she can help people end up in a good life, or at least make prison less miserable.
Well, so the kind of question that I'm kind of thinking to myself is that, like, what would be Blue's point of, like, I guess breaking point to where she would want to like do this? Is there already story kind of in motion for this to be swapped?
Yes, and that actually started kind of funny, because so Earl Duncan, the deputy warden at this time, he started sort of teasing Blue with, yeah, you're gonna be the OC, you don't have a choice, you need to come back, but as the OC. And Blue was just like, yeah, sure, haha, just all fun and games, you know. But now that Blue is actually doing better, like she is taking her medication, she is on parole, she works actively on getting better and being a good citizen, she actually started thinking about it, about what Earl said. Now she's like, yeah, I want to help people. I want to help people get better, like people helped me get better. So yeah, that's kind of her motivation, and it has been spoken about in character as well.
I see, that's cool though, right? Is that like it's kind of like a you put Blue through the process of like being a lifer, and then you put the time into having her be brought out, and then now it's like having a chance to help lifers that may come around or some of the sorts like that, just to kind of be supportive, I guess, being a supportive character like that through someone else's story. Have you thought about having it where she's a full DOC, or did you want her to be transferred to a cop?
Oh no, I would definitely stay DOC. And not even because I don't like PD. I just can't do PD. Like, oh, see, I am way too stressed for that. Like,
I
I tried it
100%
on.
know what you mean.
Yeah,
I know what you mean.
like I actually have been a cop on a different server, but it's just so stressful for me to chase and all that kind of stuff that I don't enjoy it.
I feel like with Cop RP, I made a character at one point, and I was like, okay, like I'm gonna try this. I'm gonna try it out and be a gatekeeper. Didn't work out. I was very it was very stressful just because of that, just to kind of see people and everything like sorts like that. Um, and then I was like, well, I'll try to come back, but then I was just like, I don't know. Like I still have horrible anxiety when it comes to type of stuff,
Yes.
but I mean, Cop RP looks fun, but it's just like I don't know, something I have to definitely warm myself up to at some point.
Yeah. And that's also the reason, like, because it stresses me out so much, I won't do it. I also have to do a DOC, but the reason that I think I could get blue into the DOC is because I am comfortable on blue. Like, when I play blue knows prison, I can just ignore my OC anxiety, and just play blue. So I think DOC should work out, but PD is a step too far.
Right. So Porter, I want to ask you one kind of like this is kind of like the closing part of the podcast. And again, I want to thank y'all both for coming on. I know that y'all said you're all very nervous, and I think that I'm very very thankful for y'all coming on. So Porter, when having a DOC character, and obviously the time that is you have to dedicate right to be a DOC, were you expecting to put 2 years into DOC, like, or was it kind of like, because obviously at some point with the characters that you have, right, like you're never really going to be on that forever, right? But was that something that you had in mind in long term, or was it kind of just like, what, like I've had my fun with this kind of character and just kind of wanted to close this chapter off?
So Porter wasn't originally going to be working DOC. When I joined the server, she was a cop, and she was for a while. And after a couple of weeks, she honestly walked up to the chief, asked him if there was any plans for DOC, and he said no, but if you want to, then go ahead, all yours. And I started from there, and I started with barely being able to speak on the radio, and if you had asked me 2 years ago to come on this podcast, I wouldn't have said yes, not at all. And I never really, I think, had a goal with it. I just wanted there to be more of a prison than just a mechanic of just, going into the prison, sitting in a corner waiting. I wanted to actually create some RP so that there was more of an interaction there, because of what we have today is kind of what I wanted to create. There was never an end date for me. It was kind of just, I have this goal and I want to do that. And then throughout time, like every week, I had a new thing that I needed to get going with. And there wasn't much of a plan, to be quite honest. Because I went from never having done Cop RP before to within a month becoming a cadet, becoming an officer, owning a prison. I did not know what I was doing at all.
So would you have any advice for someone that if they were to have the same chance that you've kind of had, if someone had the opportunity to actually do kind of what you did, would you have advice for them to do?
Take it one day at a time. Don't stress it. I did not know what I was doing at all. I still kind of don't. But it's gone all right. Just try your best, then it'll be as it is.
Yeah.
Like, it just has to be something you're burning for.
So all right. So Blue, kind of with the same kind of like closing kind of question, is that with how you've had a lifer and you've had your character go from obviously be locked up to where being brought out, and like you said that push that limits. If someone wanted to kind of have like a slow burn story and kind of like build up something, but they want that kind of like that heavy slow burn story of them being put into prison, what would be some advice you give to them?
Just do it. Yeah, that sounds like really easily, but like you gotta start somewhere, and I think the way to start is just put your character in prison and see where it goes. I think that's actually a tip I would give. I'm sure it wouldn't work for everyone, but what helps with me is to not have a plan. I really like just, go with the flow. I let the RP bring, yeah, like, just let me go with the flow and my RP develops itself. And I think that's advice I would give to everyone. Like, if you want to lifer in prison, you want to have that slow burn RP, plan your background story a bit, plan the future a little bit, just get your lifer in and see where it goes.
All right, hell yeah! So just take that leap, and just kind of
Yeah.
go right into it. Right, Porter, were you gonna say something?
Yeah, I was gonna mention, I don't think you've ever met them, but I have I have a lot of characters. I have one called Amelia, who I have mostly because she is a character I never planned the future for. Because although, especially when I got into roleplay, I kind of planned it out a lot to give myself a safety net of what I was gonna do. But this character is just whatever the world throws at me, I will say yes. Yes, and for everything. And it's honestly been extremely freeing because this character there's consequences in RP, but I don't have anything planned out, so I'm not losing anything by going with one thing or another. I'm just going to go with whatever comes at me. And it's honestly been extremely freeing and created some amazing roleplay.
Right, so it's kind of like you aren't limiting yourself to anything. It's kind of just like
Exactly.
whatever comes your way, you just kind of like, because you never really expect what you may, where your character may even go.
You
I have
do
my
need
character.
to. Oh, sorry, you first.
I have my character, and I have certain rules with her, and like she's always going to behave a certain way. But I'm going to allow any RP that comes to me. Basically.
Yeah. I agree with that. And I think it's important for that to know your character. Well, you don't even have to know your character that well, but you have to set out what your character would do and what he or she wouldn't do. But when you have that clear, it's actually very easy to just go with flow.
Yeah, all right, hell yeah. See, I've always felt like a lot of RP of my own, I need just for, I wouldn't say clarification, but just for myself, it's like you need to have some type of plan, but at the same time, it's like I feel like the best RP that I've ever had ever was just like kind of winging it, especially with the ink stuff, because that stuff was just winged. Like I didn't really think. I knew that when I permit ink, I was gonna permit him, but I didn't really think how I was gonna permit him.
Well,
I didn't really think how I was gonna perma ink, but then once I was like, I feel like the leap of, I'll just say it, how Blue, like how he forced Blue to cut his heart out, like I feel like that story is like, it was a very big mystery to people because it was like no, like only some people, like rumors kind of came out, and it was just like nobody really knew what happened. And then I think that was like my favorite part out of that whole story, was just like there was pieces of that story, of his own story, that people didn't know, because it wasn't a lot of stuff was broadcasted out, but a lot of it was kind of kept like to himself, and it was just like, people who find out about it, they're like, well, we want to know, but it's like nobody really knows the actual answer.
Blue still has nightmares about it.
Oh god, that was brutal. That was probably one of the most brutalest ways. I've never, I've permitted a couple of characters. I had a one lifer that that Lola punched on the back of the head, and I permit him. And she got charged, got sent to prison. Crazy. But yeah, no, I wanted to thank y'all again for coming on. I literally could not wait to have you on, because like I said, we've always talked about like comp and crim, but never really like DOC and life. And I thought it'd be perfect to have y'all on.
It was very interesting. Thank you for having us.
Hopefully, maybe like in a year or so, if you're still role playing, I can bring you on and see what you're, a little update or something like.
Hell yeah.
So,
Definitely.
so obviously, every time before I do end, I always let the guest pick who should we raid at the end of each stream. So if you can go to the Echo stream list and pick out who we should raid.
Lyra, maybe. She's live right now.
Lyra?
Yeah, we can do
Depends
that.
if we want to do that one or someone else.
Yeah. Let's do Lara. It's nice.
Okay. Yeah.
I was gonna say let's follow the chief, but Lyra deserves it.
We can also do that. I don't care. But Lara's cool, so
Yeah.
Let's do Lyra. Yeah.
deserves it.
Down do that. But yeah, thank you again for both of y'all coming on. It was been a really, really good time. And again, thank you so much everyone in chat for coming on, having a listen. Next week we're gonna be back at next Friday, and the guest will be announced in the following week. But before I forget, let me just tell you, RIP Porter, honestly, really gonna
no.
Porter K.
Oh my god.
But
I'm
again,
gonna cover my character and it's still gonna be there.
it's gonna be more iconic even than now. Like, but yeah, I'm gonna go ahead and raid. But thank you again, chat, for hanging out, chilling. Thank you so much, Jarina33 for the follow. I appreciate you a lot. And I feel like I butchered your username, and I'm sorry. But thank you again for coming in. Boom. Okay, and I will again thank y'all so much for coming on and discussing behind the roleplay of y'all's characters.
Well, thank you.
Thank you for having us.
Also, RIP Porter.
I hate you.
Horrible.